Hello everyone, this is Tetrafolium, and I just had to wait for that drop of the melody right there for the opening to Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, of course. We're going to be listening to the whole soundtrack, probably, because this is going to be a crazy yap session. So definitely download this video, take it on the car ride with you, do whatever you need to do, because this one's going to... I'm going to take my time with this one. First of all, I want to thank everybody for 5,000, sorry, not 5,000, geez, 500 subscribers. I wish 5,000, but we'll get there eventually. And this smorgasbord of things that you see on the screen right now is just some of the things that I really am grateful for. The people with the Wake Up Babe, Tetrafolium 2-hour content binge. That's exactly what I was hoping to see. That people hitting me up in the Discord, letting me know that how much they appreciate the work that I do. Ignore the person on the bottom. And like that there are some like real members of the community that I've been such a big fan of now showing love to me by subscribing. That is really awesome. And also, how can I get through this without mentioning Zets? Zets has been really instrumental to me as a creator, as growing as a creator, and I'm just thankful for the platform he's in a sense provided for me, and also like keeping in touch and doing collaborations and things like that, and that's been awesome. So thank you, man. Let's get into how this is gonna go. So I'm picking out comments from my recent community post. I don't think that there are any. I'm gonna check last minute just in case anybody posted anything. Nope. All right. So there you go. This is the cutoff. I'm so glad that you guys know already. In any case, I've got some slides prepared that will give some visual aids for these questions. I have not like written out any scripts or anything that will tell me exactly what I'm gonna answer, so I'm gonna try to be some off the cuff, but I have thought about some of these questions before getting into it, so keep that in mind. I'm gonna spend as much time as I feel like answering each question. You know, if I feel like I can get through the question in a few seconds, I might only give it a few seconds. If I want to spend a few minutes yapping, then I will take that time to do that. And I might not answer every single question that was on my community post. Some of them were maybe I didn't have very interesting answers for, or they didn't quite like fit, or they were too similar to another question. But in any case, if your question was not picked, it's not because I hate you. It's because I don't have time for you. No, I'm kidding. It's because it's not quite fitting the narrative that I'm trying to spin about myself here. There you go. That's another nefarious way to say that. Let's go on to the first question. Who do you think got the first question here? It's Zets asking, what is a Tetrafolium? Well, I mean, that's pretty easy. Tetrafolium is the name of my YouTube channel and my Discord, but I'm gonna take this question in a slightly different direction. Is like, why did I pick the name Tetrafolium? Well, Tetrafolium is not a real like thing, but there is a plant, a genus of plants called Trifolium. You probably know it to be a clover, or a shamrock or something like that. These plants here are all over the place, very commonly associated with luck and Irish culture. I'm not from Ireland, but somewhere down the line in my family is from Ireland. Actually, more so from Scotland, but a little bit Irish. So there's a little bit of a family connection there, but I do count myself as pretty lucky in a lot of regards. So I've liked the symbol of the clover. I also like the number 4, which is part of the reason that I like Jirachi so much, because it's based on like a 4-point star. But in any case, that is basically it. I don't know if you guys have noticed in my profile pictures, but I have the Jirachi, but behind it is like a 4-leaf clover type shape. It can be a little hard to see, especially when you're looking at a small version, but that's the premise there, is that I've got that 4-leaf clover shape in the background. So Tetrafolium is not, like, 4-leaf clovers are not a different species or than other clovers. It's just a mutation of a 3-leaf clover. Um, but I'm kind of stripping that apart, making it something new. Tetra being the, I believe, Greek root for 4, maybe Latin, I'm not sure. But that's where Tetrafolium comes from. What's my favorite color, asks Nightfall Night. That was a little bit confusing there. You got night and night, but different spellings. But my favorite color is green. I mean, that's pretty nice for me because I'm playing a lot of Pokemon Emerald, or really the adjacent format associated with Pokemon Emerald. Like you could probably imagine, I like clovers, so I like the color of them too. And green is just a really nice color. Things like grass, trees. Money, I mean, I guess money's nice, but like, forget all that. Green is just a really nice color. What inspired me to start posting content on YouTube, asked Adrian Clemens. Sorry if I mispronounced that. So there's kind of a roundabout way to get here. I want to talk a little bit about what I was doing before I made ADV videos, which is, you guys probably have not watched that, which I don't blame you, because why would you? But it had to do with my draft league. So my draft league originally was just a group of friends of mine who were interested in playing Pokemon. I was like, well, how can I get them to engage with it a little more? So I said, why don't we do like a draft league? So everybody's gonna pick particular Pokemon that they want for their team, and then we'll build our teams and play each other. So that puts a lot more constraints on their like team building process and what they're going to have to do when they play. So it's not as diving into the deep end as if we had just played like regular style tournaments. And that was a really popular idea among my friends. We started in Gen 8. We just kind of threw together our own board and made up our own rules, and we played, and I won that season, by the way. The GOAT. I actually have not won a season since, believe that or not. But we continued that on. Season 1 was our first season that we did in Gen 9, and we're basically done with Season 5 now. And yeah, we've kind of been keeping it going there. My reason for starting making videos is related to this. At some point in, I believe it was like 2022 or 2021, I'm not sure. Something happened with Showdown, and it like corrupted most of the replays, and that included almost every one of the replays from our season 0. And we were like, well, that's really lame, because we want to. I'm gonna turn the music up here slightly. Sorry. That was really lame because like we want to go back and watch them and like reminisce about what crazy things we did when we were all not quite as good at Pokemon back in the day. And I was like, yeah, that sucks. So what can we do about this? And I was like, well, what if I make little videos that will like act as a sort of time capsule that keeps most of the replays from our draft leagues archived somewhere. And that's sort of the premise there. It evolved a little bit where I kind of used it as a little precursor to trying out commentary. If anybody is interested in getting me a gig, let me know. But I digress. But then I was like, I'm kind of getting honestly, I was getting a little bored of making videos of the Draft League content, because it's like, while there's some really interesting stuff that happens in Draft Leagues that you're not going to be able to see in standard play, it's like, I don't know, I was getting a little burnt out on it. So I was like, well, why don't I start making videos about the format that I really like to play at the time that I started making the videos, which is ADV. And then it kind of became, now that this is an ADV channel. So that is basically, yeah, that's where we're at right now. So that's part of the reason why I did ADV. Another part of the reason, actually, I want to talk about some of my influences in the ADV content making space. Oof Maxima, Z Panther, and Eva Kiyama. All three of these creators have some really nice videos regarding ADV. I know that all three of them have had, at the very least, ladder success, and if not even some tournament success. I believe Z Panther made it to all the way to semifinals of Revival 2, so that's really impressive. All three of them, yeah, have some really good videos, but like, sort of the issue that I have, and sorry if you're watching this, but like, they don't upload like really that much anymore. I think Z Panther maybe has the most recent upload, like 4 months ago, like before I even started making ADV content. Oof Maxima probably has some, like in the similar time frame, and Eva Kiyama I feel like has been off for like a year or so. So I loved watching their videos when I got the opportunity to, but I watched all of them, and then I was like, well, okay, what do I watch now? And I was like, well, maybe this is just a market per se that has not been tapped into as much as it ought to be. Like, yeah, there's Jim Cool as well, and I love Jimothy Cool and his content, but he's sort of shifted his focus away from ADV to be a little bit more of a Pokemon generalist, which I think is a smart strategy. When you're as big a content creator as Jimothy Cool, you're going to appeal to more people. And there's a lot more to say when you don't restrict yourself to one singular niche format. So I definitely do not blame Jim Cool for going that route, but it's like, you know, there are some of us who are ADV specialists who want to be in community with other ADV specialists and want to make and watch content about ADV. And I figured if there's a sort of demand for that there, I'm willing to supply that. I hate to talk about this in such like transactional terms, but like, essentially, I want to see more videos about ADV. So I'm going to make more videos about ADV. Not that I watch my own videos, but maybe somebody will be inspired by me one day to make some videos. Who knows? Maybe somebody listening right now said, I want to make videos, and goes and makes some, and we're going to have some like really interesting ideas. So that basically wraps up what the content that I do, but I also want to talk about the format that I do it in. And that's these PowerPoints. So I would credit two channels for me doing my PowerPoint shtick. First one is, well, actually talk about the one on bottom first, Electric Wind Girlfriend. If you've not seen her videos, she talks a lot, well, a little bit generalized, but mostly about VGC actually. And she does these quick PowerPoints where most of her videos are like under 10 minutes, sometimes even under 5 minutes. Just getting across some interesting quirks that happen in VGC particularly, but as well as some brief overviews of broader topics. Like she talked about the GSC metagame, she talked about I think particular sets and Ubers. There's some, you know, a lot of interesting videos there. If you like the quicker short form content, or like medium form content, I guess, then Electric Wind Girlfriend is great for that. Me personally, I don't have the pacing per se to do videos like that, and also I think that there's still some value in having this longer form content. Like, I understand a lot of people have some boring things to do, like your work is not that exciting, you have a long commute, you don't like doing your chores, and one of the things that I like to do when I have to do these boring things is put on a YouTube video and listen to somebody talk. And like BKC, for example, is another creator that I really like. Didn't shout him out per se because he's a much bigger content creator, so I don't think he needs the boost from me. Granted, Electric Wind Girlfriend is probably bigger than both of us, so I guess I don't know if she needs the shout either. But her PowerPoint presentation style makes me feel like this can work. And then the person that really got me to think about, like, I could do a PowerPoint presentation style of video is this guy up here, Delightful Kiss Boy. Now, he has absolutely nothing to do with Pokemon whatsoever. He mostly talks about gambling, in particular, how games are constructed to make the people who play gambling lose, and he's debunking strategies that people use to try to sell you on the idea of, oh, you can be good at gambling. And he's like, no, that's not, like, there are some strategies that are better than others, but all strategies in gambling are losing. Otherwise, the game would, like, it wouldn't be a good gambling game because the casinos would be losing money on them. And like, his voice is insane. Like, he's got a really deep voice. Some people say he sounds like Joe Swanson, which is, I mean, I can hear it. I think you should check him out if you're at all interested in that type of stuff. If you're like coding, statistics, math, that type of stuff, I think he's really good for that. And he's also really funny and he's got a nice voice. I like listening to him. And yeah, he's definitely on this longer paced presentation style. So it's like, well, if it's gonna work for him, maybe it'll work for me. I don't know if I'll get 31K subscribers just talking about ADV OU, but I'm kind of fine with that. I mean, I want to reach people who don't play ADV but would maybe be interested in it, but I'm not sure if I'm like necessarily interested in going too much beyond that, at least for the time being. But yeah, these are sort of my inspirations, as you will. Zets, I mean, not to say that Zets doesn't inspire me in ways, but his style of content is quite a bit different than mine. I think we would both agree on that. So not to exclude Zets from the discussion, but yeah, the Oof Maxima, Z Panther, Evakiyama are a little bit more in the same vein of what I'm trying to do with content, whereas I would say Zets is a little bit more similar to like gym gaming style with maybe a little bit more analysis. So in any case, before I talk myself into a hole here, let's move on. Chingading asks me, what are my top 6 favorite Pokemon regardless of viability and generation? And also wants to note that it'd be cool if I made my own VR, played Explorers of Sky, or did a Road to Number 1 series. All of those 3 things are things that I might be interested in doing. I don't know if I'll get to them right now. The viability ranking, I'll say I am not well versed enough in this generation to really have a solidified viability ranking. And I know that might sound crazy to some of you to hear, because I've like you might see my accounts, like I've got 1,000+ games played on like both of my main accounts that I use for ADV. I've got games that are not tracked on those played. I make all these videos about ADV, but I think that I need to play against some more serious competition before I really understand what the tools are designed for, you know? Like I might have this concept that, oh, Salamence is like a really, really good Pokemon. Like right now I might think like Salamence is top 6 or something like that, but maybe I'll go to tournament and I'll realize, oh, this thing's not very consistent. It's very easily countered. It is relying on inconsistent moves to win certain matchups. I don't know. But that's not at all what this question is asking. It's asking about my top 6 favorite Pokemon. So, my first favorite Pokemon, this should not be a surprise to you, is Jirachi. Why do I like Jirachi so much? Well, I think it's, part of it's the design. I really like the 4-point star look. I think the 4-point star is one of my favorite shapes. And Jirachi does a good job emulating that. I think it's got a cute design. It's like almost pixie-esque. I think you'll hear Jirachi and Celebi referred to as the Pixies, especially if you play in this generation. And it does a good job. It's got really big eyes. It's got the little almost tear marks underneath its eyes. It's always sleeping, which is also cute. But I think a lot of the reasons why I like Jirachi actually have to do with its lore implications. It's like this. If you don't know about Jirachi, basically it's this Pokemon that lies dormant and sleeps for many years, sometimes decades, sometimes centuries, etc. And the people who find it and wake it up are granted a wish. And I think that that's really, really interesting. The Pokemon is rich with lore, and I love these almost mythological elements to it. It makes the world feel a lot more real, which is great for my immersion. But in addition to that, it makes for really, really interesting set pieces in the side games, particularly Mystery Dungeon. Jirachi is featured at least twice in Mystery Dungeon, at least 2 times that are prominent in my mind. The first is in Pokemon Red and Blue Rescue Team, a sort of end game dungeon called Wish Cave. It challenges you by reducing your Pokemon's level to level 1, and you have to climb a 99 floor dungeon, and at the end you have a boss fight with Jirachi, and if you manage to beat it, it grants you a wish, which is so cool that you actually get to have a wish granted by Jirachi. And the rewards you get from Jirachi can be really, really nice and are sometimes even required to get completion. So I think that that's really interesting. But really what sold me on Jirachi, what put me over the top, was the special episode from Pokemon Explorers of Sky. Bidoof, his little story about he wants to be a great adventurer, explorer, etc. But he is not very well suited to it. He's not very strong. He's a little cowardly even, so it's hard for him to brave some of the dangers that come with adventuring. So his thought was, what if I seek out Jirachi and wish to become a great adventurer, or wish to have the tools that I need to become a great adventurer? And this may be spoilers here, but the conclusion to that is that he finds Jirachi, has a boss fight, and Jirachi says, okay, you've earned this, I'm gonna give you a wish. And Bidoof is like, what do I wish for? He's like, do I wish for money so that I can buy TMs to get better moves? Do I wish to become stronger, have better stats, essentially? And Bidoof says, no. I want to wish for friends who are gonna shape my life for the better. And then Jirachi thinks about that and is like, okay, your wish is granted. And the implication, or at least the way that I read it, it's a little bit ambiguous, but not really, is that the friends that Bidoof is granted by Jirachi are your player character and the partner Pokemon, which, that's such a cool way to tie in this special episode to the main story. I love that. And yeah, maybe you could argue that that's more to do with Bidoof and the writing than Jirachi, but Jirachi is definitely an integral part of that format, and to me it characterizes Jirachi, at least in the Mystery Dungeon series, as this genies are always characterized as warped and evil, and they're like like tricksters in a way. But Jirachi to me seems a lot more wholesome. Like you would give a wish to Jirachi that is like you you're expecting something, and Jirachi's gonna give you something else, but it's gonna be better for you than you ever could have thought. And like that is really cool to me. I love that concept for a character, or in this case, a Pokemon. So that's why I really like Jirachi. I mean, not needless to say that I like its competitive applications, although I understand that many people don't like it in DPP, and sometimes people don't like it in future formats because of its annoying Iron Head, Serene Grace flinch idea. And no, I don't like that aspect of Jirachi all that much. I would prefer it. I honestly would prefer if they got rid of Iron Head from Jirachi's moveset and instead it was relying on Meteor Mash, because I think that would be a lot more fun for the Jirachi user, and it also it gives some more counterplay for the person who's facing Jirachi. But I digress. I think that Jirachi has some really interesting contributions to certain metagames, and yes, I acknowledge that sometimes it's not always the most fun, but it's I love all the other things that it can do. I like Wish, I like its special coverage, I like Meteor Mash when it gets that. Doom Desire is such an interesting move, so on and so forth. Alright, so that was my first favorite Pokemon. I'm gonna try not to gush too much about my next two favorite, or like my next 5 favorites, but we'll start with the next 2 though. So my second favorite Pokemon is Clefable, and now you're saying, hold on, are you a DPP player in disguise? You just don't want to admit it to us. And no, honestly, I've not played. I maybe have played like 5 games of DPP total. But Clefable, to me, it was not always one of my favorite Pokemon. Like, when I was a kid, I used to like Blastoise, I used to like Scizor, I used to like, you know, all these like really cool Pokemon like that. But as I got more into competitive, I was like, I can't win with my favorites, all right? I need to find some Pokemon that I really like the playstyle of. And starting in Gen 6, I mean, like, the power level was really high. Like, with the Megas, like, Medicham, Kangaskhan, back when that was allowed. Like, your Mawile, oh my god. Like, there's so many strong Pokemon, and it's like, well, how do I not just completely fold? Well, you need a little bit of a defensive backbone, and one of the first Pokemon that really caught my eye was Clefable, because it's got healing, it's got a really interesting type with Fairy, and it has like access to so many moves. And Clefable was a Pokemon that I would come back to a lot in Gen 6, a little bit in Gen 7, but Gen 8 is really where like Clefable exploded for me, and it really cemented itself as one of my favorites. In fact, my second favorite. Like, it answers so many problems for a team. Like, oh, I need a special wall. Oh, I need some paralysis support. Oh, I need a stealth rocker. I need a Calm Mind Sweeper. And like, Clefable can do a lot of those roles in one. Not all of them, you know. You only get 4 move slots and 508 EVs and 1 nature. But like, Clefable can do a lot for you. And Clefable was the first Pokemon that I drafted in our first draft league that turned 17 season 0. And like, just the amount of team building opportunity that I had with Clefable was immense. Like, I had a game where I was Cosmic Power, Charge Beam, and Stored Power, I think. And because my opponent didn't have anything that could kill a Clefable after like +1 or 2. So like, and like, they were not going to use phasing or boosting of their own, as I kind of figured out through their playstyle. So like, I was able to take advantage of that, and I had a really interesting Clefable set there. I've had some Calm Mind sweeping Clefable. I've had some like defensive. One game, and like Clefable is a Pokemon that I like to pick and draft a lot. Another game, I was up against a Gouging Fire Sun team, and I was like, wow, my team, I have no switch-ins to this, because like I mean, I had like maybe one Fire Resist, but the Fire Resist was like not super sturdy. It was not great. And I was like, well, what do I do? And I was like, well, what if I use Utility Umbrella Clefable to reduce the damage from Sun boosted Flare Blitz or Heat Crash or whatever, and then I use Reflect to double my defense stat, and I can weather the storm. I can T-Wave the enemy, and then I can just kind of take the beating, get up the Reflect again, and, you know, just Moonblast out and get the trade. And that worked for me. Like, that was insanely good for me, actually. It turned a matchup that was basically completely lost, because I had no other answers, really, for Gouging Fire, and Clefable was able to find a way there. And, like, that's what I love about Clefable, is that its stats are not great, and, like, you would on the surface think it's not very good, but it always finds a way to like crawl itself up into the metagame. And you know, some of you will hate that, but I respect that drip. Aegislash is my third favorite, and I know that some people argue about how you pronounce this Pokemon's name. I always say Aegislash. Aegis, like the shield from Greek mythology, also because I'm a big Xenoblade fan, of course. But some of you will say Aegislash, and like, alright, that's fine, you can pronounce it that way, but I'm gonna pronounce it Aegislash. I think this Pokemon's really cool. Like, the way that its like stance changes from a defensive to an offensive form and back is just like, that's awesome. And I mentioned that I started playing in X and Y. Aegislash was a huge reason why I had some early success. I was actually able to hit, I believe, top 200 or 300 on that ladder briefly, using a team that had a Swords Dance weakness policy Aegislash. And it's like, was that a good set at the time? I don't know. I don't think that was one of the standard sets, but like, that was back when I was like, oh, I'm just gonna make my own teams and play, and somehow I managed to cook, and like, I had a very successful team. And then they banned Aegislash, and I was like, no. And you know, maybe that was better for the metagame to ban Aegislash, but Aegislash was one of my favorite Pokemon to use at that time, and I really loved it. And yeah, it's since come back in Gen 8. It was really sad when it was not going to be back in Gen 7, but it came back in Gen 8, and it wasn't quite as strong. They nerfed its stats for one, and for two, like, its place in the metagame had been a little bit more tenuous now that everything gets knockoff. Dragapult was really powerful, and it was like, you know, I don't know if I want to use Aegislash on my teams that much, but regardless, it's got such a sick design, and I just love playing with it when I get the opportunity to. So maybe if I ever get the itch to play some Gen 8 Ubers, then I'll load up an Aegislash, or Ubers, some Gen 8 UU. I'll load up an Aegislash team and get to work. Now I'll talk about the next three. I'll try to be a little quicker about this, because, you know, we're already taking up so much time here. Yeah, okay, so my fourth favorite Pokemon is Ferroseed, and you might look at that and you're like, what the hell? Like, Ferroseed, I feel like, is a Pokemon not very many people think about. Ferrothorn, its evolution, is probably something that you thought more about, and probably not thought some good things about it. And, you know, I don't dislike Ferrothorn at all, but Ferroseed, to me, is a little bit more of a personal thing. I used to play a lot of low tiers in Gen 6 and 7, and my favorite Pokemon to use and in those tiers, and probably the reason why I would go and play those tiers, is Ferroseed. Why? I really liked its spiking. I really liked the Eviolite bulk that it had. I really liked Leech Seed. It was a combination of a lot of mechanics that I liked to play with, and it was so fun to use as like a dedicated spiker on these teams. I feel like a lot of people, especially back when I played, were not making very good use of spikes. A lot of people were like, all right, I'll just throw stealth rocks on a team and that's good enough. And I was like, no, man, like spikes are cool too. And like Ferroseed as the spiker was really, really nice. I remember taking my favorite team from like Gen 6 PU, and I was like, can I win a game in every tier? And Ferroseed was on this team, and Ferroseed was instrumental for me winning my Ubers game. And this is crazy. Like, I mean, I was not very high on the ladder on any of these. It was like 1,200 or so on each of these ladders, but like, I went on a run and I consecutively beat every tier. And then I played Ubers, and Ferroseed was the only lifeline I had for not getting swept by Geomancy Xerneas. And like when I saw my Gyro Ball just one-shot the Xerneas, I was like, whoa, this is something special. And like I'm gonna take that memory forever. Ferroseed, you're definitely good in my books. Rose Raid, I don't really have much of a competitive history with Rose Raid. Rose Raid has always been like UU, RU-ish material. And yes, it has the spikes and leech seed combo that Ferroseed has, but Rose Raid for me is more about the in-game. I really, really like to use Badoo / Roselia / Rose Raid as my grass type whenever I play in-game. So like in Pokemon Platinum or Pokemon Black 2 or whenever opportunity I get to catch it, I will. And because I think it's so consistent as a grass type throughout the game. I like the training arc from Badoo to Roselia, and Roselia is really strong for like a mid-game Pokemon. And when you get that shiny stone and evolve to Rose Raid, like it is so nice. The 130 special attack, that's really, really good to have. I like when I'm able to get Sludge Bomb or Giga Drain on it, like it's so powerful. And I just love the design of it too. I like it's like almost like mask and cape. It's like almost like a Phantom Thief. I mean, I know that, you know, I already mentioned Persona. It does have that kind of same vibe as like the Persona 5 cast. But obviously this Rose Raid existed well before Persona 5. So maybe, I don't know, Rose Raid is what sneakily got me into Persona 5? I don't know. Don't ask me too much about Persona 5. I haven't played it in a long time. But yeah, no, I think it's really suave. It's got some aura. I'll say that. And this portrait here, I hope portrays that. And my 6th favorite Pokemon is Whiscash. And you might look at that as well as like, that's a weird pick, right? And this also has to do with Draft League. So when we got to Gen 9 draft and I was looking at the draft board and I have like single digit points to play with, I'm like, what can I get to fill out my team to get some roles that I want? And I was like, well, maybe I want like something else that has hazards on it, so I don't have to bring hazards on like Jirachi or Clefable all the time. And the Pokemon that caught my eye was Whiscash, because Whiscash has access to Stealth Rock and Spikes in Gen 9. And I was like, wow. At the time, we had it for like 2 points. For 2 points, that's pretty good. And then Water Ground, as you know, as an ADV player, is a really good defensive type. So Whiscash became one of my staple picks. I was picking it every draft league, and eventually they made it cost like 4 or 5 points on the board because I was just taking Whiscash for like easy points every time, and I was getting so much value out of it. In fact, I think it was the kill leader on my team at one stage, because so many times people would say, okay, this is going to be a this is gonna be a spike stacking Whiscash. I'm just gonna go to my spinner, and then I would do something crazy like Dragon Dance. It's like, oh whoa, I wasn't expecting that. Now the Whiscash is outspeeding and hitting my team really hard. And then you're like a Zen Headbutt flinch away on something from just sweeping their entire team. Then you also have things like Future Sight, and you could do Rest Chest, or Rest Chesto, I should say. And like, there was still a lot of variety to be found in Whiscash, which is a Pokemon that I feel like people don't use it. It's not good. And granted, I kind of see the point, or I see the argument there. Like Gastrodon, Quagsire, Swampert are all better, generally speaking, but Whiscash has some interesting properties. Like, to me, it's I view it kind of similarly to Electabuzz in this tier. It's like, okay, well, it's maybe not the best at doing any one thing, but it has so many like options that come together in a package that basically nothing else does, that I think it's got some value. Now, would I bring it to an OU game? Probably not. No, I think its power level is a little too low for that. Its weakness is a little too exploitable. But for draft, where the average power level is a little bit shallower, I think it's really nice. And if you're ever playing Gen 9 draft, think about Whiscash for your team. And just before anybody asks like some additional questions here, I want to talk about some other favorite Pokemon here, like just like 3 of like the most common ones. My favorite starter is Cinderace. I didn't think it would be my favorite starter. I'm actually kind of down on a lot of the starters. I don't really like most of them, but Cinderace is a really good mix of competitive intrigue. Like, that fast U-turn style is really, really good. And also, like, I think it's just really expressive. When I saw Scorbunny for the first time, I was like, all right, well, like, this guy is like, all right. I mean, but like, how expressive that this whole line, I mean, Raboot is kind of eh, but like that, particularly Scorbunny and Cinderace were in their animations in Sword and Shield, like, I really appreciated that, and I think that's Cinderace is a really, really cool Pokemon, and it's my favorite starter for that reason. So everybody who's hating on Sword and Shield for having crap animations, like, you know, maybe they're not that great, but there were some good things happening in there. I like Cinderace going for Pyro Ball. It's a lot more kinetic than you would think. My favorite evolution is Sylveon, which is just don't read too much into this. I'm not like coming out as trans or anything, although trans rights. Let's just say that right here and now. But Sylveon has definitely been my favorite to use competitively throughout the years. It's also it's one of my favorite Pokemon to get in like a Nuzlocke capacity. I've played some Nuzlockes with some of my friends, and Sylveon has been a key component to many of our successful Nuzlocke teams, because it's just a really well-balanced Pokemon, and has some really nice tools. To me, Sylveon actually is really nice. I also like Fairy type, so my favorite legendary is a little bit of a tough question, but I think I'd have to go with Tapu Lele, particularly because it enabled some of my favorite teams in Gen 7, and also kind of in Gen... not so much in Gen 8, but it was fun to use in Gen 8. And Natdex too, it's a really fun Pokemon to use. Like, one of my favorite teams was like not Indeedee, sorry. Tapu Lele plus Mega Alakazam, like Psy Spam team. I thought that team was really, really fun, and it was like Lele was, of course, the Pokemon that made that archetype work. Tapu Koko is also really cool, and I love the teams that it is able to facilitate. but I think Lele was a little bit more fun for me. And yeah, like there's some cool box legendaries and all that, but like I don't know, like they're a little passé now. It's like, all right, the god of space and time. It's like, all right, well, that's been done, man. I've seen that 1,000 times already. I'm kind of over it. I want something like different now. So Lele, I think, is kind of hits a sweet spot of like, this is like something you don't see very often, and it's still like really, really powerful. It's got that legendary feel. Plus, I think it's got a cute design. In any case, we'll move on. Necromech X asks me, what is my favorite pseudo-legendary Pokemon and why is it Metagross? I mean, Metagross is not my favorite pseudo-legendary Pokemon. If I had to rank them, at least for the Gen 3 ones, I'd probably go with this, where Mence is my favorite, then Tyranitar, then Metagross. That being said, I like all of them. It's not like I don't like Metagross, and I still think that Metagross is better overall as like in terms of viability than Salamence. But I kind of like the playstyle that Salamence it falls into a little more than Metagross. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have Explosion. It's nice to have that Meteor Mash. It's nice to have something that beats Blissey. And Metagross, certainly out of these three, is the best at taking on Blissey, at least in my opinion. I mean, some of you may argue that Tyranitar is better. I don't know. But, like, and Metagross does solve a lot of problems for your team, whereas Salamence kind of creates some problems for your team. It does solve some as well, but it's that would kind of be my breakdown. Obviously, Dragonite is sitting at number 4. I mean, it sucks. I mean, I'm not even really a fan of Dragonite's design, I'm going to be honest. That might be a hot take there, but like to me, it's just like Barney the dinosaur, but orange, which is like, that's cool, but it's not really for me. In any case, though, none of these Pokemon are actually my favorite pseudo-legendary across all generations. My favorite one would actually have to be Hydreigon. And, you know, for Zetz who's watching, Hydreigon is this, like, dark dragon type, 98 speed, so it's a little slower than all these base 100s, and there are even more in future generations. But it's got some really nice special attack, and, like, the dark dragon coverage is really, really interesting. And in particular, the reason why Hydreigon is my favorite is probably to do with this these two teams here. So this is Gen 8. This was pre-Galarian Darmanitan ban, so I think that was probably like November 2019. And this is I don't remember if this is the highest that I ever achieved on the Gen 8 ladder, but this was at least the highest that I have any like screenshot evidence of. It was under an account that's not Tetrafolium, so don't go looking for it. You're not going to find it. But these were the two teams that I was using, and as you'll notice, between the two teams, yeah, there's Corviknight, but there's also this Hydreigon. And at the time, I was like, Hydreigon's actually a really nice counter meta pick, because at the time it was like, all right, you have your Galarian Darmanitan, you have your Dragapult, you have Dracovish and all that, right? Really, really powerful Pokemon. And Hydreigon with a Choice Scarf is going to outspeed and threaten all of them. Well, maybe not so much Darmanitan, like to varying degrees. You're going to have to get some chip on the Darmanitan. And I had to come up with some interesting ways to get around Darmanitan. As you can see, I have the bold Sylveon here. That was designed to live Scarf Darmanitan Ice Skull Crash. Like it would live 2 of them. You could protect even to make it even better for yourself if it happens to be like an adamant Darmanitan on top of the Scarf. If it's banded, it's kind of but you can go to Cloyster then and then set up for the win there. And I was an ethical Cloyster gamer, okay? I didn't use King's Rock, even though I could have. I used Focus Sash. Focus Sash was really nice for Cloyster. But yeah, like this was this first team. Dracozolt was really funny. I actually forgot to put 4 EVs onto Dracozolt, as you can probably notice if you're looking at the screen, but didn't really matter. Bolt Beak, Earthquake, Dragonclaw, Low Kick, that was really good coverage at the time. And Hustle, yeah, I mean, it's inconsistent, but like, you know, 80% of the time you get that hit, you're killing something. Like, I didn't mind that. Obstagoon was a Pokemon that I was a little disappointed with. I thought it would be better. Oh, hey, this is the Jim Cool song here, by the way. I think Verdant Turf Town, right? I'm easily distracted. That's right, Verdant Turf. Obstagoon, it was a Pokemon that I had higher hopes for. I love these Guts Flame Orb Pokemon. As you can see, I had Conkeldurr on the other team, which I believe the other team was, I think, built by Finchinator. I might have made some tweaks to it, but the first team was my creation and also like really, really fun. Obstagoon with Obstruct. I think Obstruct would be a really interesting move if it was on some other Pokemon. It's basically like King Shield, if you know that, or rather, it's Protect, but if you get hit with a contact move while using it, it'll lower the opponent's defense stat. So, like, that was a really interesting application, and really good at punishing certain Pokemon. Corviknight obviously was very just consistent, a great spinner of sorts. As you see, I had 28 speed IVs on Corviknight. This was so I could underspeed other Corviknights, but still outspeed if I ever happened to see like a Vaporeon or like Umbreon somehow, like these base 65s, I could still outspeed those. Like, I don't know. It never really came up, but I was underspeeding most Corviknight, which was kind of nice. As you see, I have 30 speed IVs on the other one. Same idea as like I'm always stealing IVs off of Corviknight so I can get a slow U-turn against other Corviknights. So yeah, Seismitoad, obviously you needed that back in the well, I guess this team on the left succeeded decently well without it, but like if you didn't have Seismitoad, you had to have like 2 or 3 counters to Dracovish, because Dracovish would destroy your team otherwise, which is not nice, but it is what it is. Clefable's there, one of my favorites, of course, but this time I had a Life Orb Hydreigon. The concept there is that I can U-turn or Volt Switch around to get to the Hydreigon against something who it's faster than, and then just fire off a nasty Draco Meteor or Dark Pulse. So that was kind of the whole concept of this team. Both of these teams were instrumental for me to achieve this elo, which is, I mean, it's not that good, right? It's only 348 on the ladder, but at the time it was, I felt like it was a nice achievement, so I screenshotted that, so I was able to pull that bone back up and bring it to this video, so that's kind of nice. C. Kanao, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. What are my most played Pokemon metagames? So I kind of answered this a little bit before, but I started with XY, and I've probably played a few thousand games of it across all the little accounts that I made. I mean, I think when X and Y came out, I was like was I in like 8th grade? I don't know. It was like sometime in middle school. So there you go. If you're asking how old I am, you can kind of narrow it down from there. But yeah, I played a ton of X and Y. But I really liked Ubers. I liked NU. I liked PU. Ubers, I used to play this team. It was not my team. I think I actually got it from a YouTuber, not really a Pokemon YouTuber, but he did play a little bit of Showdown at the time. His name was the Ethical World Network, which I know what's happened to him since then, and it's very tragic, and, you know, rest in power to the king. I wish nobody has to go down that route, we'll say. But I loved the team that he had where it was like a Mega Mewtwo Y and a Mega Lucario on the same team. And the concept of it was that you either had a really strong physical breaker if you needed it, or a really strong special breaker if you needed it. And like, I thought that was really innovative as a concept. I don't know if he came up with it himself, but that's where I found the team, and I love using that. I loved a Shuckle lead team with like just some heavy hitters like Specs Dialga, and Ho-Oh and stuff like that. So I played a lot of Ubers in Gen 6, but I like towards the end of the generation, like an Oras era, I was playing a lot of NU and PU, and that's where I talked about my love of Ferroseed. You know what I liked on that Ferroseed team? Lumineon. Lumineon was a surprisingly good fire type switch in, thanks to Water Veil. Not being able to get burned. Yeah, you could run Storm Drain, and maybe that's better, but forget that. I like that Water Veil. And I liked U-Turn, Toxic, Defog. Like, it was one of the only fire resists that got Defog, and I wanted this hazard removal support for my team, even though I was using Ferroseed and getting spikes up. Like, that was... I felt like a genius when I figured that one out. Because in fact, I think that the original team had Kabutops, but then Kabutops got banned. So I was like, well, do I throw this entire team out, or is there another Pokemon I could do? I tried Wartortle, but that was like a momentum sink. It was a severe pace mismatch for my team. But Lumineon was actually a lot nicer for it, and shoutouts to Lumineon, which is a Pokemon that I feel like people remember Lumineon as being a really forgettable Pokemon, and they're like, what is this? Like, this is But, you know, one Pokemon that you think has no value can find some value in some niche context for somebody else, so keep that in mind. I played a lot of Gen 8 as well, but particularly, I liked playing an RU for a time, and I played an RU right before they added Grassy Surge to Rillaboom and Psychic Surge to Indeedee. Both of those Pokemon were RU ranked, and there was a 2-week period where they were running wild on the tier. And it was like, what was the RU committee doing? Like, you need to ban these guys fast. But the way that I innovated is I had a Vileplume to handle Rillaboom, and then I had an Assault Vest Golurk to handle Indeedee. And Assault Vest Golurk was really interesting because it's got no guard, right? So I would run the moves Poltergeist, because that just dropped at the time, Dynamic Punch, High Horsepower, because I wanted to not be reduced from Rillaboom's grassy terrain, and then Darkest Lariat, which is like, Darkest Lariat was not a great move, but it was the move I needed to 2-hit KO Indeedee, because Indeedee's a normal type, so you can't hit it with Poltergeist. And a lot of people would have their Indeedee, and it's like, alright, I'm Specs Indeedee, I don't give a fuck, and I'm going to click Expanding Force. And when it does less than 50% to the Golurk, and Golurk is swinging back for a solid 50+% itself, the Indeedee user's like, oh shit. And no, that was really cool. I also had like Scrafty on the team to sort of disincentivize the Indeedee for going to Expanding Force. They would oftentimes click Dazzling Gleam into the Golurk, assuming that I would want to switch the Golurk into Scrafty, but I would never switch the Golurk. I'm always clicking Darkest Lariat. So, okay, sometimes I'd click Dynamic Punch, but that's kind of the idea there. And Vileplume and Golurk are a lot better in my eyes now, at having gone through that little bit of the metagame there. And honestly, I actually kind of liked that metagame. Like, I understand that those Pokemon were broken and completely centralizing, but, like, I don't know. Sometimes when you have some broken stuff, that's what inspires some innovation, you know? Like, would I have thought to use Cloyster and Sylveon as my Darmanitan answers? Or, like, as, like, 2 defensive pivots on that previous Gen 8 team that I showed you, if there wasn't Darmanitan, like, probably not. So, like, I think there's some interesting things that go on there. And I've played, like, probably, like, 2,500 games of Gen 3 so far. I'm going to be playing more, like, am I going to get to 10,000 before the end of the year? Probably not, but maybe I hope to get to 10,000 before the end of my life, so that's the goal right there. Maybe I wonder, will I ever get to a point where I have more subscribers than Gen 3 games played? Probably not, but could be an interesting idea. Alright, see how that goes then. Alright, so Dragon Hunter 2001 asks, my favorite mon to team build around, or what's my favorite flavor pick mon? So I kind of try to take the ABR approach here, and I was like, alright, let me go into my team builder and see which Pokemon I have the most on all of my teams. And it's kind of an unsatisfying answer. It's Tyranitar. Tyranitar is on, like, I mean, I feel like I build a lot of teams without Tyranitar, but Tyranitar is on almost half of my teams. I guess the thing is, like, Tyranitar feels like such a lame answer because it's the best Pokemon in the tier. Or, I mean, okay, we're not going to hash this argument about, well, actually, Skarmory is better. Because, like, you know, while I think that's a valid opinion, I feel like Tyranitar as the #1 is also a valid opinion, and frankly, more valid. So, yeah, I think that was kind of unsatisfying. So it's like, all right, who's my second most high usage Pokemon? And this kind of surprised me. It's actually Celebi. I would have thought it would have been Zapdos or Salamence, but apparently I just have a lot of Celebi teams. So it's kind of interesting. I think that Celebi, honestly, is a little bit underrated for what it does in this tier. Like, yeah, it's rated pretty highly still, but, like, people talk about Celebi like, oh, it's, like, borderline top 10, and it's like, I don't know, maybe it's, like, legit top 10. Maybe it's, like, whatever you're thinking, like, your say, who's like a solidly top 10 Pokemon. Like your Metagrosses and your Suicunes and things like that. It's like, is Celebi not in that conversation? Like Gengar, is it not in that same conversation? And you know what? Maybe some of you are saying that's a mid-wit take to say that Celebi is like in that same conversation as those Pokemon. But I'm telling you, I think that Celebi is really, really good. Leech Seed in this format is like, it's one of the easiest progress makers in the game. And it's like, people will say, yeah, well, you just get switched on and pressure stalled out. And it's like, okay, well, if my opponent is switching for the sake of stalling out my pressure turns, and that's turns that they're not doing anything. And I could be racking up spikes damage. I could be, that could allow me to find a switch to one of my Pokemon to keep the momentum on my side. Like, that's big. Like, even if you're not, like, killing a Pokemon off or healing tons of HP with Leech Seed, like, you get so much value out of a Leech Seed click. So, I think Celebi is, I mean, while I'm kind of surprised that I had it as much as I did, like, I kind of see the reason. It's really nice. It fits on a lot of different team styles as well. But the Pokemon that I really, like, am looking to build teams with, a lot of times I'm like, oh, I can slap this on a team, is Salamence. And yeah, I understand. Sometimes I'm even throwing Salamence on teams that it's not good on. It's actually, like, making me really bad into, like, a Suicune or a Blissey or something like that. But you know what? Like, Salamence is cool as shit, alright? I love to Dragon Claw with this guy. I love to Fire Blast. I like Banded HP Fly. You know, I think there are a lot of things that Salamence does that I think is cool. So, I mean, even if it's a little simple, but whatever. I like Salamence a lot. So, I don't know if it's my favorite Pokemon to use in the tier per se, but it is, like, I'm always like, can I throw Salamence on this when I'm making teams? And I have to tell myself no, because sometimes Salamence does make a team worse. I can agree with the Salamence haters on that. So it doesn't solve problems that other physical attackers might, thanks to its 4 times weakness to ice. So yeah. Attitude Indicator with the, I believe that's Greevil from Pokemon XD. Really cool villain. Asks, what's my favorite Shitmon to build around? And exclaims that theirs is Rhyhorn, or sorry, Rhydon. Rhydon's cool. I think that it's interesting because it has like the same idea as Scizor, where it could be a reversal Pokemon that doesn't take sand damage. So you could do like a Salak Endure reversal type thing with Rhydon. However, it's just too slow really to make that work in practice. It's like, I mean, I think it's slower than Heracross even at +1, which is ridiculous. So which is, and that's probably not the way that you should use Rhydon. There's plenty of other ways, and it's got a really nice 130 attack stat, I believe, but Scizor also has that, so I don't know. But I mean, Earthquake plus Rock coverage is really nice, so I maybe should make a Rhydon video at some point. But my favorite quote-unquote shitmon to build around, and I'm gonna take that to mean a Pokemon who is not D rank or higher on the viability charts, is Regice. I think Regice has some really, really interesting utility. Particularly, it's got the strongest ice moves in the game, or at least unboosted, which it's like, do you need to have a strong ice type on your team to succeed? No, but when you have one, feels kind of good. And then I like the Bolt Beam coverage. I like Thunder Wave. I like HP Fire for Fortress. Explosion is really nice to have. I want to try a Psych Up variant of Regice on a team. But the thing about Regice, though, which it makes it feel like kind of a cop-out answer, is I don't really build Regice teams. Like, I'm not like, I want a team with Regice. How do I accomplish this? I usually build teams and then I end up like, what problems do I need to solve? And I find that Regice is the solution to those problems. So, like, I'm not really building Regice teams. I'm building teams that have Regice on them, which is an important distinction, and which is, I think, where some people get the wrong idea about Shitmons. Now, granted, yes, I build teams that have the Shitmon in mind. I'm trying to build around it so that I can showcase what the Shitmon can do. But I hope I don't get like flagged off of YouTube for using this language. But in any case, Regice is not really like that for me. I think most of the time Regice is like, I want a special wall that has some motion, some momentum, and Regice is what I go with. It's pretty good in the water types, but like my favorite mon that I've built around, that like specifically I was trying to build around it, and it's like a low tier Pokemon, is Electabuzz. I think Electabuzz was really fun to try to figure out how to get this thing to work. And that Electabuzz team, like, I don't think it's a fantastic team, but like it works surprisingly well into some common metagame teams. So like, I don't know, and maybe Electabuzz is a contributor to that, and maybe sometimes it's not. Maybe it's like if you had Jolteon instead, it would work just as well. But I don't know, like Electabuzz, like the electric grass ice coverage, like hardly anything else gets that. So it's really fun to use for that reason. So I gotta give shout outs to Electabuzz here. LRXC, which I hope you guys know who this is, but if you don't, they're a commentator on Revival tournaments. They've also got the record right now, or at least they're in contention for the record for the Battle Factory in Gen 3. So yeah, I mean, I was in that stream where LRXC managed to beat the 8th Noland. I'm not going to explain too much about Battle Factory because it's not really my it's not my area of expertise. If you want to learn more about it, you should go check out LRXC. Very very happy to know that somebody like him is watching my videos. But they ask, do you actually think Electabuzz has viability? And says that they find that it stands out to them as the least viable of the niche ADV Pokemon that I've shown. I think that that's probably true, that it might be the least viable. I think there's maybe an argument between it and Scizor, which might be Scizor slander, but I don't know. I'm kind of an Electabuzz believer. We could take a look at the data that was that was collected to make the aggregate viability rankings that I keep referencing. And like you see down here, like these are the bottom ranked Pokemon. These are the Pokemon that barely had people voting for them. And I think there are some down here that are maybe a little underrated. Like Articuno, I think, has some viability on particularly like these slower paced Superman style teams. So I think maybe Articuno deserves a little bit more love. Alakazam seems like it could be interesting. I haven't personally used it. Well, I haven't used Articuno either, so I don't know if I can really speak to that. But like, I feel like Alakazam maybe could be a little higher than 50th. Banette to me seems like it could be useful. Don't know though. But yeah. Electabuzz, do I think it's better than any of these? I don't know, like, is Golduck really that much better than Electabuzz? Like, I understand that Golduck can be used on a rain team as like a kind of a sweeper, but like, the amount of support or team support that you need for Golduck to be successful is like astronomical. Like, you have to sell out for a Golduck, kind of. And Electabuzz, I feel like, is a lot more splashable. Like, you could put it on many more team structures than you could Golduck, which I feel like is a big part of viability. It's not the only thing, right? Like, so if something is only really good on one team, but that team is really good, like, take, for example, Misdreavus, back when that was, like, the thing that everybody was playing on ladder, and in tournaments, then yeah, you know, Misdreavus is gonna rise in viability for that. But Electabuzz, like, again, is more splashable. I think you're gonna be able to put Electabuzz on more teams than you'd be able to put something like Gorbis or Jumpluff on. And maybe that's, I don't know, maybe that's ignorance. Maybe I need to play with Gorbis and Jumpluff to really understand them. But like, I think Electabuzz could be used on these teams. Now, the problem with it is its competition with other electric types. So Zapdos, Raikou, and Jolteon are all really good in their own right, and it's really difficult to justify putting Electabuzz in when you could put one of those Pokemon in instead. And, you know, I think a lot of times we get bogged down comparing Electabuzz to Jolteon, but like, compared to Raikou, right? They're a little bit closer in speed, but Raikou's got more special attack, it's got better bulk, it's got Calm Mind. Like, the only thing that Electabuzz gets on Raikou, and I mean, frankly, the only thing it gets on any of these Pokemon, other than Zapdos, which it's faster than, is the coverage. So having Ice Punch is really good, because you can have the Bolt Beam without committing your hidden power, which means that you can commit your hidden power to Grass, so you can hit Swampert. So, like, that much is good. I think if Electabuzz had a little bit more special attack, like, I think, what is it, base 95 right now? If it was like base, or, sorry, is it base 95 or 105? I think it's 95. Let's, Electabuzz. Yeah, 95. I should not have doubted myself. Yeah, like if it instead of base 95, it was like base 105, like its speed stat, and it was able to like more closely get these KOs on Swampert and Flygon and things like that, then it could, I think it legitimately would be viable. Like we would be talking about it as like, don't we want to see it over like Jolteon or Raikou or something like that? You know, Raikou is going to require a little bit more team support than Electabuzz, because it's like Electabuzz at least has a move that it can click into Blissey, whereas Raikou's kind of like screwed against any Seismic Toss Blissey. In any case, but like, yeah, I want to say like there are 3 Pokemon that have viability, or at least get considered, that are basically dedicated to specifically countering Suicune, and those are Quagsire, Poliwrath, and Mantine. I don't know if Mantine was ranked here in the like the ADV aggregate poll here, but like those 3 get used, and like they're literally made to counter team or counter match up one Pokemon, and it's not even the most like popular Pokemon in the tier. And it's like, well, Electabuzz, it's not a hard counter to any one Pokemon per se. Well, I guess maybe Gyarados, but like it has coverage that can hit a lot of Pokemon, and like being faster than most Salamence and being able to Ice Punch it to kill it, like that's pretty good. But that's not the only thing that Electabuzz can do. And I'm not here to say that like Quagsire literally only can kill Suicune and that's it. Like, yeah, it has other purposes. Same with Poliwrath, and Mantine, kind of, not really, but like kind of. Yeah, they can do some other things, but like those other things that they can do to me are like, I don't know. I would like to have a fast electric type, rather than like like a super effective move into Snorlax. Like, okay, great. I could have Tyranitar on my team and beat Snorlax, you know. In any case, Sableye also is getting played basically just for countering Claydol, and yeah, I understand that like Claydol being one of the most consistent spinners, and a ghost type being the spin blocker, you would like to have something that is good into Claydol, and Sableye, yeah, accomplishes that. But like, again, these are so niche, like, and Electabuzz can do some other things than that. So I'm not suggesting that I think Electabuzz should be like OU ranked, not even in the slightest. I don't even necessarily think it should be E ranked per se, but like I think it should be in the same conversation as Pokemon like Jumpluff and Quagsire and Poliwrath. You know, maybe that's again showing a little bit of my naivete, or my midwitness as as a player, but like I'm a believer in Electabuzz. You know, I think it, you know, less matchup fishy. It's got nice roll compression because of its coverage. I think it can be used on some teams and see some success. Now, I don't know if I would necessarily bring it to tournament all the time, but like, you know, again, like you might see a Jumpluff team in a tournament game. All right, well, I think you maybe see an Electabuzz team, you know? So yeah, maybe this is again my hot take, but I hope that kind of covered it. Red Eye Solares has said, congrats on 500 subs. While it is the least viable compared to Electabuzz and Jinx, they want to see me attempt to use Magmar in ADV. I mean, it's definitely been a thought of mine. It's like, well, I've kind of done the other 2 of the trio. Maybe I should complete the trio. I mean, I've done that for some other Pokemon too, like Regice and Registeel, but I haven't done one for Regirock. But my sort of thing is, like, if you think that Jolteon is better than Electabuzz, which is a very reasonable take, and I honestly would agree, then imagine a Charizard versus Magmar. Like, so what does Magmar get, right? Magmar, it's got Cross Chop, right, to hit the opposing fire types, or sorry, not the fire types, the fighting weak Pokemon. Well, Charizard gets Brick Break, and it also gets Focus Punch. And yeah, I guess Magmar gets Focus Punch too. Technically, Magmar's got a higher attack stat, but like, you're slower, your special attack is not as high, and your defensive, I mean, your defenses are like, well, the defense stat is, in particular, is really bad, but, like, its special defense is okay, its HP is pretty mediocre. Charizard, not taking spikes damage, not getting Dug Trapped, not having to fear Earthquake, like, that's all huge. So, to me, it's like, what am I gonna do with Magmar that I can't do with Charizard, right? So I guess the answer is that you have a slightly stronger fighting type move that isn't Focus Punch that you can click into Blissey and Tyranitar. So I would think that's what you have to build Magmar around. Like that's the concept. Yeah, so the gears are turning. I'm thinking about it, and I could probably do that at some point. And I probably will, but I'm also just thinking about, like, is there really any reason to use Magmar over Charizard? And it's like, the answer is probably no, but I don't know. We'd have to play with it to see. All right, I hope that's the last question I get about Electabuzz, because as much as I like it, I'm not trying to marry it or anything. Nick asks, what is your favorite Pokemon to play right now, and why is it Counter Metagross? Well, see, Counter Metagross exists to clown on Choice Band Metagross, right? Choice Band Metagross is going to come in and click Earthquake, try to go for the trade on your Counter Metagross, and you're going to say Psych and kill that Metagross. And even if it's not Choice Banded Metagross, no Metagross can trade into Counter Metagross. Like, you're going to have to spam Psychic with a mixed Metagross to not get hit by a crazy counter. So, like, yeah, that's why my favorite Pokemon to play is Counter Metagross. But, like, obviously that's not true. It's Mixed Ment Supremacy, baby. I love Mixed Ments. But yeah, that's I hope that answered your question. Zach Nork asks, are you on Team Hariyama sucks or Team Hariyama is more viable than several OU mons? Okay, so basically what you're asking me is, am I normal or am I BKC right now? And I guess this is something I go back and forth on a lot. Whether I think that Hariyama is deserving of OU viability or not. Because I'll say this, I think Hariyama is significantly better than most UUBLs, at least in the OU tier. In the UUBL tier, it's like, or that format, it's like, Raikou and Dragonite are definitely a lot better. But specifically in the OU tier, I do think that Hariyama is really nice. Being able to beat Tyranitar is good. I mean, it's not unique by any stretch, but it's good. And then knock off to pressure things like Skarmory, who otherwise would be the switch in for physical attackers, is really nice as well. I think it enables some interesting styles of team, like, for example, Hariyama plus Fortress as a concept where you knock off the Skarmory. I mean, you're able to switch to to Fortress, and all you have to do with the Fortress from then on is spin. And as long as you keep the spikes off, you're going to beat the Skarmory eventually. Because Skarmory only has 32 spikes. Fortress has 64 spins. It's going to run out of spikes. It's going to run out of health because you're going to do like 1% that's not getting healed by leftovers anymore. So, and Fortress is not the only Pokemon that can do that. Starmie can do that. To some degree, I guess Claydol could do that. The problem with The problem with Claydol in particular is that it's not usually threatening Skarm with any like significant damage, and you're gonna have to spam refresh because you're gonna get toxicked a lot. So I don't know if I love it for Claydol in particular, but for Fortress especially, and then Starmie as well, like it enables some pretty safe play around the Skarm, which I think is an underrated aspect of it. And yeah, I know you guys are like, all right, I've considered that, and I still think that Hariyama is bad because the defenses are not as good as they ought to be. And that's fair. Or you're like, it doesn't hit as hard as Heracross or Medicham. It's like, yeah, that's fair as well. But like, it enables a style of play that very few other Pokemon can allow you to do. Because of knockoff, because knockoff is such a rarely distributed move. But the question is not really like, what can Hariyama do, or is Hariyama like good for whatever? Is Hariyama more viable than several OU Pokemon? So like these on the screen, I've got some of like the lowest rated Pokemon in OU. Cloyster, Gyarados, and Breloom are bringing up the rear. Smeargle, Jinx, and Raikou are the next three highest Pokemon that are not in OU right now. So the first question I have to ask myself really is, do I agree with this sort of breakdown here? Like, do I agree that Breloom is the worst OU Pokemon and it is better than Smeargle? I think that there's a pretty decent argument that Breloom is the worst OU Pokemon, but even saying that, I don't necessarily think I would want to. I would support dropping Breloom back down to UUBL. I think it definitely has its niche, and it facilitates certain styles of like physical offense that are not very easily replicated by any other Pokemon, and Breloom can be innovative in a sense. I think I can't remember if it was UD or Undisputed. I think that, which are two different gamers, by the way, but like they had a Charizard Breloom team back when both of them were still UUBL. That like it was a crazy big step forward for like these mixed offense type teams. And it was a crazy big step forward in bringing both of them to OU status. So, like, I want to acknowledge that Breloom is good in that way, and I think that it probably deserves its place in OU. However, I'm of the opinion that both Smeargle and Raikou are better than Breloom. And I don't know if that's a crazy take, but like the Smeargle facilitates offense in a much different way, and it is low-key something that kind of warps the lead metagame. There are a lot of Pokemon that run just enough speed to be faster than Heracross that are thinking to themselves, man, if I could find 4 more points of speed, I could just be faster than Smeargle. And that is a huge, huge thing to consider on the lead slot, because Smeargle is most commonly seen in the lead. And yeah, Spore is just a great move, and I think that is no coincidence that you have 3 sleep-inducing mons right here on the precipice of OU viability in Breloom, Smeargle, and Jinx, all of which are pretty good Pokemon. And I would say I would probably move Smeargle and Raikou up. Now, is Hariyama better than Jinx? I don't think so. Like, okay, Jinx is a little bit inconsistent because it's relying on a 75% accurate sleep move. But like, ask yourself this, like, if you're playing a serious game and you don't have a good like lead matchup into Jinx, are you really about to let your lead go to sleep 3/4 of the time? And the answer is like only yes if it's the least valuable member of your team. And if the lead is the least valuable member of your team, like what are you doing? Like there's context, of course. Like maybe the lead is like not necessary to beat the kind of special offense teams that Jinx facilitates, which is totally fair. But like that, the threat of that fast sleep at the beginning of the game, it can snowball with an ice beam freeze. Like, listen, if you let a Pokemon go to sleep and then you switch into something to handle Jinx and get frozen, like that has to be the most oppressive Pokemon in the metagame, like, period. Like, what are you supposed to do about that? And then Calm Mind Substitute is really nasty. Perish Song paired with Dugtrio is also really nasty. In summary, Jinx is like, I think Jinx is good. So I would say Jinx is probably the next best Pokemon that I wouldn't put in OU. And then Hariyama after Jinx. So that would I think maybe there's even an argument Regice over Hariyama. You know what? I might say that. I might say Regice over Hariyama, and then Hariyama is the next best. In which case, I would say maybe then Hariyama does not deserve to be OU ranked. I think there's maybe an argument that Jinx, Regice, Hariyama could all go there, but I think that they're all a little too fringe to get there. The next two Pokemon I would put up if I got the choice, and if I had it now I would, are Smeargle and Raikou. I think that they are legit threats to the metagame. Although I guess I want to get a little bit on my soapbox about this ranking here. To me, a tier denotes that all the Pokemon in that tier are relatively the same, and you could have defensible arguments to put any in any position. So, for example, if you're saying that Fortress is the top of C2 and Medicham is the bottom of C2, what matters there is that you're open to hearing the idea that somebody thinks that Medicham is better than Fortress. And if you're like, absolutely not, Fortress is way better than Medicham, and there's no debate, then why would you put Medicham in the same tier? Put Medicham the next tier down, right? And so if you're saying Cloyster, Gyarados, and Breloom are all OU ranked Pokemon, and then you put Smeargle, Jinx, and Raikou in that tier, like, why are they not OU ranked? Like, if they're in the same relative tier, like rank of, or ranking or tier or power, it's kind of strange the verbiage here, but you know what I mean, then why are they not all designated the same? And if you're saying, well, Raikou and Smeargle and Jinx are not good enough for OU, but like they're still relatively about the same as these, all right, well then drop Cloyster, Gyarados, and Breloom, okay? If we're saying that the bar for OU is higher now, then that's fine with me. But if the bar is as low as Breloom, and you're saying that Smeargle, Jinx, and Raikou are about the same as Breloom, then just rank them OU. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It's not like it really changes anything whether a Pokemon is ranked OU or UUBL. You're still able to use it in OU regardless. But I do think that it's nice to recognize which Pokemon are legit and have palpable niches in the tier. And I think that Smeargle and Raikou do. Jinx, to me, I would probably move down to the top of E rank. So that's sort of my whole diatribe there. So I hope that answered the question. No, I don't think Hariyama sucks, but I don't think it's quite good enough to be OU. Which I've changed my mind on this a bunch of times. Sometimes I have said that I think Hariyama should be OU, but I guess at the time that you caught me, I'm thinking that Hariyama does not deserve to be OU. All right, Jamie Getty asks, how viable do you consider weather clear teams? Which are, I've sort of explained this a little bit in some of my previous videos, mostly my Ludicolo video, that weather clear teams are designed to eliminate Tyranitar and then use either Rain Dance or Sunny Day. I guess technically Hail is an option, but I would not use that. To change the weather and then Sandstorm is gone. I have two teams that have weather clear ideas on them. The Ludicolo team is more like dedicated weather clear, and it doesn't have Dugtrio on it, which I would say the best weather clear teams, or the most consistent ones anyway, have Dugtrio. But I also want to say that you don't have to have Dugtrio per se to have a decent weather clear team. This team has plenty of Pokemon that threaten Tyranitar that you're okay to not have a Dugtrio on it. Now, yeah, Tyranitar can kind of switch in pretty easily to Snorlax, and I've considered maybe putting Earthquake or a Fighting type move on Snorlax, particularly to handle Tyranitar. But I guess the problem with Curse Restlax, which is, you know, BKC talks about this a lot, is like, well, as soon as you get rid of that Shadow Ball coverage or something, well, now Gengar is a problem for you. And it's like, okay, well, am I accepting that Gengar is going to completely hard wall my Snorlax and I'm going to have to PP stall it to beat it? Or am I instead going to like put a Pursuit Trapper on the team to help me out? And, you know, you can do that, but this team, like, it's already kind of built, right? Like, I can't really fit a Pursuit Trapper anywhere. Like Umbreon or Houndoom is not gonna go. Like if I put them over the Heracross slot, it's like, well, okay, I just lost one of my win cons. Now this team is struggling to win in the end game. Like I don't know what my strategy would be. So, like I'm gonna have to accept that Snorlax is not gonna beat Tyranitar on its own, and that I'm gonna have to rely on some teammates to help me get there. You know, and I think that can be acceptable. And even if you're like, all right, forget it, I'm just gonna trade the Snorlax into the Tyranitar, and you know, the chip that I get on Tyranitar is going to facilitate me to win with something else. Then yeah, it's fine. Plus, like, okay, if Tyranitar is only going to be used against Snorlax on a team because like it's not good into the rest of the team, then it's like, well, that's one of the better Pokemon on your team that's been kind of neutered. Its goal is to stop one of my Pokemon, which is like not the ideal situation for Tyranitar. Now I will say Dragon Dance Tyranitar specifically can be kind of dangerous for this team. You're gonna have to play pretty carefully and smartly into that to not lose. So yeah, but also a lot of times people will DD that Tyranitar and then they're so willing to just sack it to Metagross. But I don't know. Yeah, arguably you could change Metagross here for Dugtrio. I think that's a reasonable take if you're particularly worried about dealing with Tyranitar with this team. But I don't know, I kind of like Metagross. And then this other team has Dugtrio to trap the Tyranitar, and has Rain Dance on Claydol to clear the weather if I need it. But it's not particularly as weak into sand. You have Milotic and Blissey are the only two Pokemon that take sand damage, and both of them have recovery, so like it's not the worst thing in the world for them to be in the sand. So you don't have to clear with the Claydol, but it gives you the option to do it in case you have an endgame situation where Leftovers recovery on Blissey and Milotic can just win the game. So I think that these teams in all have places in the metagame. I will say that the amount of... So there's a little bit of opportunity cost, right? Like you only get 4 moves per Pokemon and 6 Pokemon, so 24 moves. If you're dedicating one of them to Rain Dance and all it does for you is clear Sandstorm, it's like that is a cost. Some teams can get away with it easier than others. There are Pokemon like Ludicolo that would, I mean, Rain Dance is one of the top 4 moves that it would use regardless. Like regardless whether your team likes having rain or not, Ludicolo wants to set up rain for itself. So Um, not always, but in many cases. Uh, and you know, Claydol. Yeah, Claydol. People say 4 move slot syndrome. I don't know if I love the concept of 4 move slot syndrome. Like, I think some Pokemon have a lot of good moves, and you can't use every good move that a Pokemon gets. And to me, that's not 4 move slot syndrome. That's you have a lot of options. Now, I understand also, like, oh, this Pokemon has coverage to hit like everything that is possibly imaginable, but like you can't run all of those moves, and therefore that's 4 move slot syndrome. But to me, that's just like, okay, you have good coverage, and you have to pick which coverage you're gonna use because you can't have all of it. And I guess more so, it's used to signify that some utility Pokemon have to sacrifice coverage in order to have their utility, or some boosting Pokemon, like say Heracross, has to sacrifice being able to run 3 or 4 attacking moves in order to get Substitute and Swords Dance and all that. Like, yeah, I understand that, but I think 4 move slot syndrome, the way that people conceptualize it, is a little bit wrong. um, what was this question even about? Weather clear? In any case, yeah, there's opportunity cost to it. I think if your team doesn't need weather clear, then that affords you, well, for one, an extra move slot, and for two, you're probably using some good Pokemon like Skarmory and Dugtrio and Metagross, if you're not having to rely on weather clear. So I don't think that they're the most viable teams, or that they're like the best teams in the format, but I do think that they are good enough to use in a serious context. So now I don't know if I would say like that means that Ludicolo and Kingdra should be OU ranked, or that like every Pokemon that has Rain Dance or Sunny Day is a good user of Rain Dance and Sunny Day, but I do think that there is some room to use those Pokemon. Benji asks, why don't I just go Skarm? So like, here's the deal, right? There's this guy, Skarmory, and he's really he's a really good Pokemon. He's really good in the Gen 3 OU metagame, and many more metagames to come. But like, I have to come clean with you guys. I know some dirt on Skarmory. Per the Mystery Dungeon series story and its lore, Skarmory's a child predator. So, like, it makes me feel a little uncomfortable to switch the Skarmory in, especially when it's like something like a Celebi. It's like I fear for the Celebi to have it be in the same battle room as the Skarmory, right? Because that's just, we want to protect the children. This is like really menacing music for this too. Wow, like, but in actuality, my excuses are I'm scared of Houdini and Magneton, and even teams that don't have Houdini and Magneton, I'm just like I'm just scared for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's just bad habits I've picked up from playing later gens, where it's like a lot of later gens, particularly like Gen 8, when Heavy Duty Boots was introduced. Was it introduced in Gen 8 or Gen 9? I don't know. I'm getting some stuff mixed up in my head here. Let's check. Gen 8. Let's try to put some boots on this Barraskewda. That's right. When Heavy Duty Boots were introduced in Gen 8, it kind of turned teams into less of, like, spike stacking was not as prevalent, and it's like, okay, you might just set up rocks and then call it a day. And like, you know, when I'm using Landorus on so many of my teams, I'm like, okay, I set the rocks and then I just want to U-turn and get out of there. And it's like Skarmory doesn't quite play like that in this gen. So maybe I'm like using habits that maybe work in one context that don't work in this context. But yeah, like I do think that this is an element of my gaming that I could improve, is that I need to be more willing to go to Skarmory early in a game and get my spikes up. And whether they have a spinner or not, whether they have Magneton or not, whether they boom their Metagross or not, like, Skarmory is just getting value for you when it's on the field, and it's not getting value for you when it's not on the field, when it's stuck in its Pokeball. So, free my free my dude Skarmory. That is, God, that is a terrible way to bring it back. Yeah, all right. Weezing fan 64, who I've noticed commenting a lot on my videos, proclaiming about how they're eating their breakfast sausage or whatever it is while watching, and then lamenting that I'm not talking about their favorite Pokemon, presumably their favorite Pokemon, says, do I have any plans, or could I be convinced to make plans for a Weezing episode? No. Okay, that's a joke. Weezing is kind of cool. I mean, look at this sprite from Pokemon Pinball. He's aura farming. Look at him. He's just looking to the side like no care in the world, and his little Siamese twin is like, I know this dude. He's aura farming right now, and it's kind of funny. I like the Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green sprite for him. He looks so like dopey, and like, to me that's really funny. So Weezing, I took this from its Smogdex entry. It says, with resistances to both bug and fighting, as well as an immense defense stat, Weezing is the ideal counter to Heracross. Can survive the most powerful focus punches in the tier from the likes of Machamp and Metachamp. It can ruin boosting with Will-O-Wisp and Haze, and it's great into Snorlax as well. It gives Baton Pass Chains a hard time as long as it isn't put in to sleep or trapped or outstalled. Which I think that's a little bit more of a relic of the past, when Baton Pass was a little bit more free and you could just Baton Pass the entire team around, basically. During that time, Weezing was, I think, considered like almost the same way that we would consider a Pokemon like Hariyama today. It's like, oh, this is a UUBL Pokemon, but it is like legitimately a really good Pokemon and might arguably be OU worthy. I think that's kind of died down, but Weezing is still really good on like Superman style teams that need help against say like a Heracross or a Metachamp or something like that, Snorlax. The thing is, most Pokemon on a Superman team are either flying or have some other way to resist fighting, like maybe like being a Psychic type, for example, with Claydol. Although I don't know if I like Claydol Superman as a concept. So I don't know how unique Weezing's ability is here to be a fighting resist. Gengar is also giving it a lot of competition, because Gengar also has Will-O-Wisp and it's immune to fighting and normal, whereas Weezing is only resistant to fighting and neutral into normal. But I mean, Weezing's definitely got some other tricks up its sleeve. Haze is really interesting. It's got Fire Blast, a much stronger fire coverage move than its buddy Gengar. Although, I mean, there's definitely a special attack difference, so maybe it's not like so significantly different. But no, I think Weezing is a Pokemon that has some merit in this tier, and I will probably be talking about it sometime in the not too distant future. Maybe when I get the itch to make a Superman team, or maybe if I need a fighting resist and a ground resist in one slot, and I'm like, I don't really want to do Gengar, because, you know, Gengar's got some problems, like it can be pursuit trapped, for example. then maybe I'll consider Weezing for the next time. So, you know what, Weezing fan, I'm reading your comments. I see you, and as much as Weezing is not like a super high priority for me in my mind, I'm gonna try to make it a higher priority, because I know you're a consistent commenter and you want to see this. So I'm doing it for you, Weezing fan, and I'm doing it for all the other Weezing fans as well. So that being said, I'm not guaranteeing that it will be my next video or even like the next video after that, but Weezing will, I'm going to give it an honest shot at some point in the not too distant future. S9 Stilly9 asks, thoughts on Muck? Just say this comic strip has absolutely nothing to do with my thoughts on Muck or anything like that. But Muck, it has some similarities to Weezing. Its stats are kind of close. I think they swap special defense and defense. So Muck is... Let me actually pull up Muck on the builder here, just to make sure I'm not like gaslighting or anything. Yeah, no, it's 100 SPDEF. That's not bad, and 105 HP is also not bad. You could run 212 HP investment and get the substitutes that survive seismic toss, which is kind of nice. But my sort of problem with Muck as compared to Weezing is like it's much more lacking in utility. You don't have Will-O-Wisp and you don't have Levitate. So like, what is Muck going to do that Weezing doesn't do? I'll even have him side to side in my builder here. So like, yeah, Weezing's attack 90, Muck's attack 105, so that's a little bit stronger. So you could maybe try to do something like, and I know this is a thing, Curse and Explosion. And if you have the item Silk Scarf to boost your normal type moves by 1.1 times, that is enough to get the Oko on Skarmory. Is it the best at doing this type of thing? I mean, clearly not. Metagross is usually going to be faster and still gets the boom off, whereas Muck is certainly going to be slower if it has to go for a Curse and then get the boom. I mean, it's also just naturally really slow at base 50. Poison is not a very good attacking type in this generation. The only thing you hit for super effective is Grass, and the only like grass types really are Celebi and Breloom. Even like the fringe grass types like Venusaur are not hit for super effective damage by a poison type move, so yeah, I don't know. Deserving of the legendary music though, of course. Yeah, so like I think like the two things that are interesting about Muck is that it gets Explosion and Memento, like two ways to kill itself and generate momentum for your team. But the thing is, like, Weezing also has that. Now, granted, Weezing doesn't have as high an attack stat, so Explosion is going to be a little more dangerous from the Muck. And I do think Choice Band Muck is actually kind of interesting. You have that you still have that Choice Banded Boom, not quite enough to kill Skarm, but enough to get it low if it's going to be the switch in. And like a lot of the things that would like to switch into a poison type move are not usually, well, I would say not usually the things that want to switch into Explosion, but like steel types are kind of fine with switching into Explosion. I don't know, like Muck is just not, it does not have the sauce in this tier, in my opinion. Like, I don't know, Acid Armor could be kind of interesting. Let's see, what does it even do in OU? Sub Punch? I guess that's a thing. Curse, Explosion? That's a thing. Choice Band, sure. It's got Sticky Hold, so it's actually probably a really good counter to Hariyama, because Hariyama's probably not teching Earthquake to hit Muck. So That could be kind of interesting, maybe, but like I don't know. It's not great. And I know it's the gym Pokemon, and that's part of the reason actually why I was not that gung ho on trying to do a Muck video right away. It's like I'm not. My goal is not to be the next Jim Cool or to be like Jimothy Cool's little brother. Um, my goal is to like I want my own identity to some degree, and you know, as Muck is not like that's not my joke. That's not my, or my passion, I should say. Uh, so, like, I'm not gonna pretend like it is. Um, so there you go. Speaking of Jim, this is another song that I associate with his videos a lot because I feel like he plays this one a lot. Let's see what that is. Can't remember exactly which one. Is this Evergrande City? I think it is. Yeah, so that's what I have to say about Muck. He's kind of cool. I do think he's not completely useless, but I don't think he's great, and he's not my guy. Like that's Jim's guy, and I have to accept that Muck is. I will never be Muck's #1, so I probably won't even be Weezing's #1 because of Weezing Fan 64. So like, man, I'm gonna have to find a new poison type to get along with. Maybe Swalot or something. I don't know.